This morning we're going to talk about a godly mother. Hopefully we've all been blessed with that, but unfortunately not everyone is. And so Abraham Lincoln once said, "No man is poor who has had a godly mother." And isn't that the truth? A godly mother is a true blessing indeed. Reverend G. Campbell Morgan had 4 sons. He was a famous preacher, and he had 4 sons who were preachers. And the youngest one, named Howard, was considered a very great preacher himself. And he was asked in front of the rest of the family, who is the greatest preacher in the family? Now that's a way to put somebody on the spot, isn't it? Talking to a room of 5 preachers, and you ask, who is the greatest preacher in the family? And Howard, who admired his father greatly, looked at his father and answered, "My mother." My mother. You see, many men and women who never stand on a platform or in front of a pulpit preach the greatest sermons through living out in their daily lives the Word of God. You can probably think of certain people that fit that category, that have lived out their daily lives, living out the Word of God. Even though they weren't preachers, they were preaching a message through their godly living. Mothers many times have impacted their children far more than a sermon can, because they lived out that sermon before each of their children each and every day. So what is a godly mother? We're going to use that as an acronym, G-O-D-L-Y. The G stands for giving. A godly mother is, first of all, giving. One who gives of her life first to God and then to her children. See, a godly mother always knows where her priorities lie. And a godly mother knows that her first priority in giving is to give to God and then to give to her family, her children, her husband. There's a story of a young mother who was making her way across the hills of South Wales, carrying a baby in her arms. And she was overtaken by a blinding blizzard. Her body was found beneath a mound of snow, and all her outer clothing had been removed and wrapped around her baby. And when they unwrapped the wrappings, the clothing, to their great surprise, the baby was still alive and well. She had proved the depth of her mother's love for her child. And years later, that child grew to manhood and was elected Prime Minister of Great Britain. His name was David Lloyd George. His mother had given her life to save him. Mothers, godly mothers, are giving of their time. They know the importance of time. They know that love is spelled T-I-M-E, time. And one young mother was kneading bread dough. That was a few years ago. She was kneading bread dough as her daughter Tracy watched, and the mom decided to tell her a Bible story and started telling about the time that Jesus came to visit Mary and Martha. And Martha, as you know, was very busy with all the preparations, and she was upset that Mary was not helping her. But Jesus told Martha that Mary had chosen what was better, and it wouldn't be taken from her. And suddenly she realized that Tracy also wanted her attention, wanted her eye-to-eye contact, and she asked, "You want the better part of me too, don't you?" To which Tracy just nodded. Kids need that time, that special time. Yes, being with her mother at that time was great, but sometimes children just need that undivided attention just on them. And a godly mother is a giving mother, giving of herself, giving of her time. And she also teaches her children to be giving as well. See, that's important as well, to teach those lessons to the children, to teach them by example, but also to teach them by word. And so she also teaches her children to be giving too. Not by doing everything for them, but by giving them responsibility so that they learn the lesson of giving of themselves to others. The next thing we want to look at is the O. A godly mother is obedient. Again, just as in the giving, She's obedient, first of all, to God. Obedient to what God would call her to, first and foremost. But also teaching her children to be obedient to them as parents, as well as being obedient to God. So she not only is obedient, but she teaches obedience to her children as well. And I believe mothers need to be active in the disciplining of their children and not expect dads to do it all the time. Mothers need to be involved in that process as well. But without this parental discipline, children tend to become bratty and defiant, especially in public places. Have you ever found that? To where your children wait until they're in the public somewhere to be the brattiest? Where they think that they're safe from being disciplined? One such defiant young man went to a dentist office and was told to get into the chair. And the child said, "No chance." And the dentist said to the boy, "Son, I told you to get in that chair, and that's what I intend for you to do." The boy stared at the dentist and said, "If you make me get in that chair, I'll take all my clothes off." The dentist calmly said, "Take your clothes off, and then get in the chair." So the boy took his shirt off, and he took his undershirt off, and he took his shoes and socks, and defiantly stood there. And the dentist said, "All right, now get in that chair." And the boy said, "You didn't hear me. I said if you make me get in that chair, I'll take all my clothes off." The dentist said, "Son, take them off." So the boy removed his pants and his shorts and stood there naked. And the dentist said, "Now, son, get in that chair." And the boy did as he was told. And the dentist did his work. And when he was finished, the boy said, "Give me my clothes now." And the dentist said, "I'm sorry. Tell your mother that we're keeping them overnight. She can pick them up tomorrow." So the boy and the mom walked through the lobby, into the hall, into the elevator, and into the parking lot to the car with the boy stark naked. The next day, the mother returned to get the clothes and thanked the dentist. She explained, "You don't know how much I appreciate what happened here yesterday. You see, he's been blackmailing me about his clothes for years. Whenever we're in public places, like a grocery store, he makes unreasonable demands of me, and if I don't immediately buy him what he wants, he threatens to take his clothes off. You're the first person who's called his bluff, doctor, and the impact has been incredible." Sometimes we need to call our children's bluff. So godly mothers are obedient to God and teach that obedience to their children, as well as training them to obey their parents, because that's important too. They need to learn obedience. Just be sure that you're training the right person and that you're yelling at the right person. See, one day a young boy came in from playing outside with his pants, torn. He had tore his pants. And it had been a hectic day, so mother just told her son, "Take the pants off and start mending them yourself." Later, she saw the pants just hanging on a chair and the cellar door open. So she called down, "Are you running around down there without your pants on?" To which a deep voice replied, "No, man, I'm just reading your gas meter." So we need to make sure that we're yelling at the right people and teaching that obedience to the right people, to our children. The D of godly stands for dedicated. A godly mother is dedicated. Again, dedicated first to God and second to her family. And again, teaching her children that same dedication for God. Now let me just sidetrack here for a moment and say, this is very important to show that your dedication, mothers, to God. But fathers, this is very vital for you as well. A mother can show the dedication to God and dedication to attending church and going to church functions and going to Bible studies and all of that kind of dedication and show that to their children. But for whatever reason, when the father does the same thing, it makes a dramatic difference. A dramatic jump happens. Now, I don't remember the statistics in my head right now, but it's something like if a mother is dedicated to God, dedicated to church and going there, that about 35% of her children will go to church with her and be dedicated in the same way. But If the father is the one showing that dedication to church, dedication to God, dedication to being in church and going to Bible studies and so forth, it jumps up to like 75% of children will be regular attenders of church as well. So it's important, yes, Mom, for you to show that dedication, but dads, it's very vital for you as well. Now, how can moms do that? By showing the importance of God in her own life, showing that she's dedicated to God and dedicated to His Word. Your children need to see you reading the Bible. Your children need to see you praying. They need to see that dedication to prayer, dedication to His church, and letting that example of dedication and obedience show how important God is to her children. And this will inspire her children. Inspire them to want to be obedient and wanting them to be dedicated to God as well. One mother had shown the importance of prayer to her son, Johnny. One day after being sent to his room for misbehaving, he told his mother that he'd thought it over and said a prayer. And she said, fine, if you've asked God to help you not misbehave, He will help you. And the boy said, oh, I didn't ask Him to help me behave. I asked Him to help you put up with me. He's halfway there. He's learned the importance of prayer. Maybe the obedience part still needs to have a little bit of work done to it. But he had at least seen the importance of prayer and how dedicated his mom had been to that idea. And this mother may still have some work left to do, but at least he's on the right path in prayer. So moms, let your dedication to God and to your family be evident every day. The L in godly stands for loving. A godly mother is always very loving. Godly mothers give love, they show love, and are examples of love to their family. Again, be sure to teach your little ones also to love God. They need to see that example, and they need to learn that they are to love God. Teach them to love each other, and teach them to love others as Christ loved us. And one of the best ways that we'll learn how to love is to see love exhibited in the home. And I'm not only talking about showing love to your children, I'm talking about showing love to your spouse. Visible, sincere, touchy-feely love. Kids need to see that in their parents. That's an example to them. It shows them that there is love in that family. And kids will many times try to horn in on that love. Have you ever had that happen? Where you're hugging and who's right there? Little Johnny's trying to get right smack dab in the middle of it. Let me tell you something. Don't misinterpret that. That doesn't mean that little Johnny doesn't want you to hug. Just wants to get in on it. That's all it is. He's not trying to say, no, I don't want to see you hug. Separate. No, he's just saying, I want some of that too. And you got to remember that. Your children want to just have a piece of the action, the love action that's going on. And they need to see it. And they need to see it often. And you grandmothers here today, you also play a huge role in showing love to your grandchildren. You can have a great influence in that way as well. We're finding that out now as grandparents, that we have an influence over our grandchildren. Little Piper is going through potty training right now. And I've been getting some phone calls here lately. It's from my daughter Tara, and you can hear Piper in the background. I go pee-pee in the potty! And so she'll put it on speaker, and I'll tell Piper how proud I am of her and how good that is, and keep at it, you're doing great. They love to get that encouragement from grandparents as well. So grandmothers, you have a vital role to play in this as well. A huge role in showing love and showing an example of all of these other things too as well. One third grader said it this way in an essay. A grandmother is a lady who has no children of her own. She likes other people's little girls. A grandfather is a man grandmother. I don't know that I like that or not. Grandfather is a man grandmother. He goes for walks and things like that. Grandmothers don't have to do anything but be there. They're old, so they shouldn't play hard or run. It is enough if they take us to the market where the pretend horses are and have lots of dimes ready. And if they take us for walks and slow down passing things like pretty leaves or caterpillars. They never say, hurry up. Usually they are fat, but not too fat to tie your shoes. They wear glasses and funny underwear. They can take their teeth and gums off. They don't have to be smart, but they can answer questions like why dogs hate cats and how come God isn't married. When they read to us, they don't skip words or mind if it is the same story over and over again. Everybody should try to have one, especially if you don't have a television, because grandmothers are the only grown-ups who got time. Did you hear that? Moms and dads, did you hear that? Grandmothers are the only grown-ups who've got time. Your kids need your time. Make time for your children. Spend time with them. For love is spelled T-I-M-E. And why? The why of a godly mother is yielding. Godly mothers let their children know that they also have to be obedient to a higher authority. They need to know and see that you are yielding to God's will and God's desires for your life. Again, think about this. This is the example that you're setting. This is the things that are making an impact on your children. And believe me, those little ones are watching. Everything that you say and everything that you do, they're watching. And they need to know and see that you're yielding to God, God's will and desire for your life. They need to understand that God is the final authority. Two more areas of yielding are sometimes tough. One is yielding to your husband as head of the household. I know that's not a popular thing to say sometimes, but someone has to make the final decision on matters that are in dispute, and God has placed that responsibility on the husband. And lastly, yielding to the growth and development of your children. Now, what do I mean by that? They will grow up, and they will want to start making their own decisions, and yes, even making their own mistakes. And we need to allow it. It's part of the natural order of things. And you must yield a measure of control over to them as they grow and as they develop. It's part of the natural order, and you just have to do it. It's a delicate balance. It really is. How much yielding is appropriate at what age? And you know what I'm talking about. At different ages, there's different yielding that you take away from them and allow them to do. I was just thinking this morning, as a matter of fact, about how children, as they age and as they get older, they start wanting to make more decisions about their clothing. You know how that goes on? And when they're younger, they're always dependent on their parents, for their clothes. They've always done that. But when they start getting older, then they start seeing other kids and how they're dressing, and all of a sudden they want to start dressing similar to where the other kids are. And there was this one boy who told his dad, "Dad, I need a new pair of sneakers." And so his dad pulled out two 20s, gave him the $40, and said, "Here, go ahead and buy yourself a pair of sneakers." He goes, "But you don't understand, Dad. I need this pair of sneakers." And he told him what it was and what the brand name was and all that. And Dad says, "Well, how much is that?" He says, "They're $100. He says, "I really need them." And he goes, "No, son, what you need is $60. Get a job." And that's the way we've got to do. We've got to let them know that, yes, you can start making some decisions, but there's some consequences to them. And sometimes it's, if you really want that, you get a job. But it's also allowing them, as they're age appropriate, to make more and more decisions. And yes, sometimes to make the wrong decision that they'll learn from that, because that's how we learn, by making mistakes. And it's just a natural part of that. And yes, it is a delicate balance, but it's an important step in their development. And a godly mother will seek God's wisdom and God's guidance in these areas, because it's tough. It really is. It's tough to know where the line to draw, to always want to say no, because that's what you really want to say. We want to protect them, and we want to just say, no, you can't do that. But sometimes we've got to let go a little bit and let them make some of those decisions. And we've got to allow God to help us in giving us wisdom in dealing with that. So motherhood, it's just not an easy job. But God has placed you in that role and wants to help you to succeed in it. So seek God's wisdom. Seek God's guidance. Mothers, we love you, and we hope you enjoy your day. You are a special people, and we honor you today. Shall we pray? Our dear Heavenly Father, thank you for godly mothers. Thank you for their influence. Thank you for their guidance. And thank you that we can always look to you for your ultimate wisdom and guidance in all of the decisions that we need to make, and the ways that we will deal with our children, especially in that last area of yielding certain responsibilities to them, and making their own decisions. It's difficult. And I pray that you would just bless our mothers with great wisdom, especially these new mothers. Lord, we just pray that you